Hello, and welcome to another Institute for Sound Public Policy podcast. Today is December 12th, 2025. I am your host, Kevin Lynn. I'm also the executive director of the Institute. And today I have the pleasure of doing a podcast with Tom Luongo. And for those who may not be familiar with Tom, he has been on our podcast two other times in the past, and we always get fantastic comments and ratings whenever I have Tom on the show because he's just that exciting of a guest. But for those who may not be familiar with Tom, I'll give a quick bio. Tom Luongo is a former research chemist who transitioned into geopolitical and market analysis. He's the publisher of the Gold Goats and Guns newsletter, blog, and podcast, where he analyzes the intersection of politics and markets. He describes himself as an anarcho libertarian and Austrian economist. His work has appeared on platforms like Zero Hedge, LouRockwell.com, Bitcoin Magazine, and Newsmax Media, where he was a contributor for about a decade. Through his Gold Goats and Guns platform, he offers commentary on geopolitics, markets, and culture, covering topics ranging from monetary policy and cryptocurrencies to foreign policy and global power dynamics. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. How you been?
Oh, busier than a one-armed man at a clapping contest. But it's all good for the first time ever. And I tell people this, and they kind of look at me a bit agog. We have the wind at our backs now. And my big issue is immigration and specifically employment visas, what I'm pretty much known for. And
Mhm.
we last Christmas, right around this time, it was actually on Christmas Eve, we lit the world up. We are the ones who kicked off the great H-1B visa kerfuffle. Laura
Mhm.
Loomer picked up on a tweet that we put out on 12:32 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and that's what set off that 14-day event. And it's not it's subsided, but the movement has grown. Was only really bannered about on social media has now permeated the mainstream. I was actually interviewed by the New York Times back in October, and it was about for me about 4 hours of interviews, and they interviewed several other academics and some of our activists, and when it landed, people weren't shocked with the content, but the fact that the editors allowed it to run because it was favorable to
Right.
me and our movement. And so it tells me we have crossed the divide. We have broken through. And I go to college campuses now and I talk about programs like STEM OPT, where we're putting work authorizations on diplomas of foreign graduates and they're taking jobs at the bottom rung of the ladder, and how H-1B rips out from the middle, and it's
Mhm.
resonating out there. And, you know, I think we're zigzagging our way to reform, but I think
Mm.
we're going to get there. And I know so many people are frustrated with the administration, and I get frustrated too, and which is why I really want to talk to you today, Tom, because I feel I almost need, like, you're my therapist, my geopolitical therapist, because
Oh my
there
God.
are days when I look at it, it's like, okay, the, the administration is trying to cut this path. And, I pray almost every night that, President Trump and Bessent are successful at what they're endeavoring to do.
Mhm.
And I hope, but there's just so many people demanding that this be done and that be done. And sometimes
Mhm.
I'm thinking, okay, what is going on? Is it, our only choices, domestically as well as geopolitically, to stay with the World Economic Forum types, City of London, or do we have to just submit to the next yoke, which is a tech bros? Or are Trump and his administration, are they trying to do something else? And maybe it's only been a year. I'd like to kind of get your impression. where you are in terms of your expectations, and is the administration meeting your expectations that you might have had a year ago,
Mm.
and where you think, what the headwinds are that they're running into, and, generally, how do you feel about everything?
I'm as frustrated as everybody else but for different reasons.
Hmm.
I just think that everybody's like turned into a retard who doesn't understand how the system works. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I mean this sincerely, and I think this is part of the psyop. It's part of the zeitgeist. People who should know better know that it takes 6 to 9 months to impanel a grand jury, right? People who should know better know that when you have a 3-seat majority in the House and a fake 3-seat majority in the Senate, and 90% of the Uniparty would impeach Trump tomorrow for being Donald Trump, that he doesn't have a whole lot of room to maneuver. And that, so what do we do when you're in that kind of scenario? When I think for many people, they still think in terms of Democrats versus Republicans. Maybe I'm not even sure. I mean, in my corner of the commentariat, everybody knows it's a uniparty, and they all hate us, and that it's and that we're the carbon they want to reduce, or however you want to put it. So what they have to do is what they've been doing, which is reassert through the court system and through the obvious and potential challenges. This is what they've done all year, um, of getting back and having the favorable Supreme Court make up, redefine properly the Article 2 powers of the President of the United States, which has been bound down by what, for lack of a better term, James Burnham's managerial state, and undo all that, and that just takes time. So you write an executive order, or you start a process that they then tie up in the courts, knowing full well that that judge is going to tie this up. Some traffic court judge from Maryland is going to try and pontificate on foreign policy, and then it has to percolate up to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to knock it down, and then we move on to the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And that's really where they are when you have a Congress that refuses to actually, give Trump his ability to step in his administration. I mean, we don't have any DAs, and everybody wants people like arrested and tried in court. Like, but Pam Bondi can't, get any DAs, appointed to and then hand off the information that they have to prosecute these people, because they can't do anything with it. Because the minute if it goes to, we saw this with Jim Comey and Letitia James last week, right? You hand those off, and those are thin cases. I mean, not thin. I mean, they're guilty of whatever they're charged with, but they're nothing compared to what their actual crimes are. But the whole purpose of that was to do what as always, all the administration really can do, which is to out the process of how, and explain to everybody why we can't get anything done, because the cases were thrown out because the judge decided to enforce the fact that they weren't the DA wasn't properly appointed, and therefore the case can't go forward. Okay, well, what does that give Trump? It gives Trump the ability to then turn around and go, look, Chuck Grassley's holding up, getting rid of the blue slips, and getting rid of the blue slip policy on the Senate. Like, you have to actually educate people of just how screwed up everything is, and that's really what this year has been about domestically. At the same time, what they can do, and they've been doing that, and I think they've done a wonderful job of it. It's the best job you can do. They made some mistakes. Is then focus on foreign policy, because, well, foreign policy is pretty much wholly under the purview of the president in the first place, in the executive branch, and he can do pretty much anything he wants, which is what he's done. Go out and kill off all of these kind of old perma conflicts that the British and the French and the old colonial powers of Europe left around the world, that were munging up and destroying hundreds of millions of people's lives and everything else. And let's clean those things up, and let's then use those as, I think they're using those as a way in which to build alliances and trust geopolitically with a lot of secondary and primary actors like China and Russia, and to secondary actors like Saudi Arabia and others, to say, oh, look, the United States foreign policy is changing to fix these old problems that are sitting around. And then because of that, that's going to set the stage for and lay the foundation for a complete overhaul of the way, frankly, international statecraft, even operates going forward. And I find it almost sad and pathetic to watch a lot of people who should know better just go, oh, nothing's changed. Like, really, nothing's changed. Like, yeah, I don't know about you, but things have changed. Like, and whether they're changed for the permanent or not, well, that's not the, that's not really ours to judge at this point, right? And, when I listen to people talk about, well, they hasn't really solved Israel, Iran. Well, yeah, he kind of has, because he's the most popular,
Hmm.
politician in Israel. He's also the most popular politician in the UK. He's also the most popular politician in France, right? He's
I
also the
would
most
love
popular
to
politician,
talk to you. You mentioned the UK.
right?
When he was over in the UK, I got this impression, just watching it overall, nothing specific per se. It's
Right.
almost like the monarchy was like, please come and save us, President Trump.
Maybe. I'd like to believe that. I think my friend Ian Burlingame believes that that's the case. I'm not sure. I'm willing. I mean, I'd like to believe that, and I'd like for that to be my base case scenario, but it really isn't. I'm really 50-50 torn. Like, do I think that the monarchy is a captured pawn on the game board? Yes, I do. Do I believe that the people who are, do I believe King Sausage Fingers is a willing participant in being captured? Ooh, that's a good question, right? And I don't know I don't know the answer to that question. And I don't think and the reason it's like, I'd like to believe it's true and I'd like to analyze it if it is, as if it is true, but I can't do that. I need more corroborative data at this point. I need the king to do something definitive which states that that is the case. I think we should consider it, certainly, right? The possibility that he is going to do something, sincere. And maybe you can argue, for example, that Keir Starmer, the prime minister, is acting the way he is and accelerating the kind of Davogian, you know,
Right.
nightmarish turn in the UK is evidence that they know something is coming down the pike, and therefore they're trying to get as much stuff done as trying to poison pill the situation in the UK as much as possible, so that when the king does make his move, it won't have very much impact. That's a
Hmm.
perfectly reasonable and sound theory of action for what could take place there, but it's not the only one that's possible.
Gotcha. Because you would think with demographics being destiny, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the way things are changing, people just aren't going to they probably don't understand the monarchy or see the need for it. And at that point, they'll just become obsolete and they will be pushed out.
Well, yeah, but what I'm getting at here is actually something subtler than that, which is that the monarchy actually reasserts its actual primacy over the now wholly dysfunctional civil government, and gets rid of the civil service and the civilian government that is acting against the interests of the people. That's actually the role that the monarch can still play within the Commonwealth
Gotcha. Yes.
in order to start the rebirth, in order to
Because that's what
stop the
I was
liquidation
thinking
of the
as well,
Commonwealth.
because they've just allowed things to get to the point where someone has to take control. Some adult has to come into the room and reassert themselves, reassert some kind of, you know, uh, national centric control over everything. And
Well, that's what we have happening here in the United States. It's just it's in the hands of a man by the name of Donald J. Trump, and it's really hard for us to you know, it's really hard for us to associate Donald Trump and adulthood in the same sentence, because his public character is such a it's such a cartoon. But I also know that that's the character he plays on TV, right? Behind the scenes, Trump is much more strategic than he appears to be.
I think
Um,
so. I met him once, spent an afternoon with him in the cabinet room, and
mhm,
the real Trump really is large and in charge.
right.
And that's the impression and he's funny too. I mean, he was cracking everyone up. There was one point where he goes to us, he goes, all right, in a few minutes, the fake news is coming in. And if anything good happens, no one's going to hear about it. I mean, so we're all
Yeah.
just rolling around, and he's just, boom, boom, boom. Unlike other presidents that I've witnessed where they would have someone controlling them and saying, okay, well, this is how it's going to go, Mr. President, boom, boom, laying it all out, very, uh, curated almost, but not with him. He
Mhm.
just seems to be large and in charge.
Yeah, no, I like to think of Trump. This is, I think, the third part that pisses everybody off, Kevin, is that I think Trump is knows well, one finally understands. Someone has finally explained to him what his Article 2 powers actually are. Therefore, he has to, unfortunately, spend a year, the first year, redefining the presidency,
Hmm.
which is what they've been doing, as I said earlier. And then he just is now going forward and acting like the mob boss that he actually is. What people don't want to really admit is that we have seen the return of mob boss politics. And the three mob bosses that matter in the world today are Putin, Xi, and Trump. And everybody else does not freaking matter.
Would
And
you almost
all of the,
see that everyone else is kind of, we all want to, I grew up with my father talking about the powers that be, the Rothschilds of this, of that. But there has to be a power structure behind all of these governments. I mean, it seemed to me that uh, post Nixon, maybe even post Reagan, everyone was who was in office, or probably even H, he probably was more of an actual leader, but they're just kind of appointed to these positions. It's like, this is what you're going to do to get elected. And then
mm,
these are the people that are going to actually run things. You're a middle manager. Think of yourself as that, not the CEO. Is
well,
that
that's the
kind of an accurate way to define things, or am I?
no, you're not. You're absolutely correct. I've been talking about things in middle management, upper management, the high table is my three levels of reality here, and you're talking about quote unquote the high table. The president of the United States is not a middle manager. By definition, he's at least upper management if he decides he wants to be upper management, right? Guys like Larry Fink are pretenders to the throne that they are upper management. Bill Gates is a guy who wants to be upper management, a guy that gives orders to middle management. Ursula von der Leyen is middle management. Keir Starmer is middle management. Emmanuel Macron, middle management. Wants to be upper management, needs to prove himself, become upper management, to make his bones, to become a made man, right? Again, think in terms of mob, think in terms of mob structure, and you have a better um, understanding of how these things operate and why these people operate the way they are. Your description of Trump being large and in charge is clear that Trump now sees himself, has always seen himself as president, as being at least upper management, if not, as far as he's concerned, dude, I get a seat at the high table. I'm the president of the United States. We're the most powerful nation in the world. And you yourself, if you think that that's not the way I'm going to operate while I'm in the Oval Office, what are you out of your mind? Like, excuse me, you run? You think you run things? No. And you see, the thing about it is, with a guy like Trump, remember he grew up on the streets of New
Yes.
York as a property developer. He knows exactly how the mob operates. Because in order to get a building built in New York, you have to operate within the purview of the mob. Because
And
they
then,
control the concrete
yeah,
unions, they control the stevedores, the stevedores, they just everything. Like, so at a certain level, this is what you have to do. And everybody knows it. And anybody and who is anybody knows it. And when you watch these people pontificate and virtue signal on, when you watch the Schumers and the Pelosi's and
right.
all those people, like you watch them play the I get the vapors because Trump is acting like a mob boss. I'm like, oh please. It's so transparently silly. Like,
I,
what do you think? We're 12? We don't understand what's going on here?
yeah, I forget who
So,
said it, but they made a statement. It was on some television show. They said hypocrisy is the lubricant of democracy. So we love to be lied to. Oh, look how wonderful the process is and the institutions are they're all sound as a pound and we just have to be quiescent and surrender our moral autonomy and everything will be great. I mean, no, I think it's absolutely right. You have to. I mean, I run my business like a mob boss. I came to DC with I still have a tiny budget, but we fight asymmetrically.
Right.
And they don't, for the first several years, they never understood us. And now we've broken through to mainstream and, it was all asymmetric warfare.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how the Russians have been prosecuting their war against NATO. Like I say, asymmetric warfare.
Hmm.
Like they have these assets. They're not very big, but they use them very effectively. We're seeing that in military hardware today. It's like the whole idea of like, we're gonna like have 20,000 tanks when they for millions of dollars, or airplanes when they could throw up $20 drone swarms, and you know
My concern now, I take that and then looking at Russia right now, where they've been at war now for 5 years and they've learned a lot. Like you're saying, they now have taken warfare to the new level. They're incorporated the technologies, and
right.
they know what works, what doesn't. Uh, I would imagine anyone looking at the United States prior to 2021 would have said, "Wow, these guys have been in the field for the last 20 years. Don't mess with them." I mean, they all know
No.
what's up.
And I
Now the
and I think
Russians,
yeah, and
go ahead.
so I think that's why the Russians and the Americans will fight, because we've got a lot of people, and a lot of those guys that fought in all those wars, post 9/11, they don't want to fight they don't want to fight for the United States the same way, right? You got a whole lot of Tulsi Gabbards out there, or
Yeah.
Excess, or like all the rest of them that went out there, fought what they thought was for the right reasons, and then they came home and they realized that that was the wrong reason. That's not what they're fighting for. So those guys are all here at home and they're willing to fight for their home, which is why when I say to Davos, city of London, or to Alyssa Slotnick, or Mark Kelly, or any of these seditious.
Hmm.
I'm trying to keep it clean, Kevin. Um, these people, like, yeah, bring it. You know, come get it. You want our rights, you want our states, you want our homes, you want our lands, come get them. Because those guys, there's a ton of them, and they will all fight for America and for a leader that cares about America. So that's really what Trump has to keep pushing, which is why, of course, you have the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Thomas Massies and all these fake friggin' freedom fighters, and they're all fake as a $3 bill, as far as I'm concerned. I hate to give anybody the friggin' vapors, but these people are not real. Okay, they've always been fake, all of it, every bit of it, because when push comes to shove, all they want to do is whine, grandstand, and get reelected.
It's
And
interesting you
when
said
that path was
someone.
taken away from Marjorie Taylor Greene, she then was activated and left. I've never liked her. I always thought she was just AOC from MAGAtards. I always
Okay.
thought that. Always. I never ever in a million years was I ever convinced the that she was our standard bearer. I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it.
She
I never
certainly
bought
proved that, Tom, at this point, to just
it. Yeah.
bow out like that. It's like, someone
things
someone
got a
referred
little
to her
things
as,
got a little hard, and a man told you you weren't going to be able to run for Senate, and you got pissy and you left. Oh, pissed. Oh, shut up. She goes on 60 Minutes the other night. There's a clip of her saying, I'm MAGA. I'm the real MAGA. I said, no, you're not. Who are you? Like, what are you, Robert Barnes with a bad hair dye? No. A bad dye job? Like, give me a break here. No. Then she goes ahead, and this is how you can tell that it's an op. She then says he does this on the same week that he let the guy from Syria and that evil MBS who killed an American journalist. She brings up Jamal Khashoggi without a
hmm
name
right.
on 60 Minutes to drag MBS through the freaking mud when we all know that Jamal Khashoggi was a CIA asset probably killed by MI6 or Turkish intelligence in Turkey, and MBS was framed for it. We all know this. Anybody with half a brain. Marjorie Taylor Greene knows this, and she plays that card. That's the only attribute she can attest to. She can attach to the prime minister or the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, who Trump has just split and gotten away from the old architecture of having in the Middle East of having a blood feud with the Israelis. Like excuse me, like no, she was never MAGA. That's your tell right there. That one right there. She goes on 60 Minutes and does that one. I mean, but I knew this. Like I could tell. I could just tell about her immediately. She comes in at the same time as AOC. She becomes MTG.
Right.
That all the
AOC,
libtard
MTG.
the
Yeah.
they're all, I mean, every day she goes out there and she's used in every Democrat talking point, every stupid show, the Young Turks and all of it, that whole media space, which is now, they've all screwed off the blue sky, right? They're all over there, and they all have their little, Marjorie Taylor Greene dollies that they have to,
Hmm.
talk to their therapist with, who asks them, where did MTG touch you? Show me on the doll, right? Same thing with MAGAtards and AOC, except that AOC's hot.
Yeah.
So, we can't really say that. No, we get the gorilla armed grouper face Jim Rat, and
Hmm.
they get the hot Latina freaking barista. Like, okay, like we can't see you. Like, I can't see you. Like, give me a break. All these people are straight out of central casting, and it's just so annoying to me. Because we should all be smarter than this at this point. And the fact that anybody fell for the MTG grift was like, I don't know. And I argue with and there are people in my life that look at me and like, you're nuts. Like, I know there's half the people in the audience will be telling me that I'm nuts. I'm like, I got news for you. Half the people in my personal life think I'm nuts for this position. But I called this shit 3 years ago, and 3-4 years ago about her, and I'll go to my grave on this one. So, but it's important because the point of this is to create these false divisions within MAGA. Again,
Oh,
let's
yeah. I mean, you can always
talk
count
about
on Massie to stop E-Verify, to pull that
right.
out. A way to really help, you know, if we can't get employer sanctions, these guys that hire illegal aliens, and oh yeah, give me a little fine, and it's a road bump. If we can't put them in jail, well, give us a tool like E-Verify. But you can count on Massie to shoot it down every time.
You can count on him to shoot down. He goes out there and he says, "Well, 90%, 1% of the time, I vote with the president." Yeah, but it's the 9% that you don't that matters.
Hmm.
Like, dude, like 91% of the time, everybody's in the "I don't kick puppies" club,
Right.
right? About war or this or all that stuff. Like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, I don't kick puppies either. Oh, sorry, Thomas. Actually, I do. Like, you know what I mean? But at that point, like, come on, stop wrapping yourself in the false virtue of all this stuff. So, what's the latest thing he did this morning? He's like, I'm putting a bill forward to get us out of NATO because NATO's evil. I'm like, yeah. And by the way, Trump meant, set the timetable for us to leave NATO in 2027. But that can't be good enough. We have to do it now.
And also,
2027 will be too late. This is typical libertarian politics of creating this kind of false timetable. Well, it's not good enough.
mhm.
It's just, and so if it's not good enough, then it's evil.
And
Like,
then
oh,
he gets
shut
to
up.
be more conservative, more MAGA than the president at this point.
Yeah, and so they always do that. What does that do? What does that do? That creates this false division, and it keeps all the knee-jerk, oppositionally defiant, disordered libertarians in that camp, and then they won't show up in the midterms,
Right.
or
There you
they'll,
go.
or they'll, or they'll get, and then they get amplified by the algorithms, and they think that they're actually smart, and they think they actually have more political pull than they actually do. These are people that can't get a dog catcher elected in Lubbock, Texas. I'm sorry. Like, Show me on the doll where your political movement actually did a damn thing. Like, I'm sorry, I'm over it. And the older I get, the more I realize that like the whole thing was nothing more than an operation. I hate to really give Dexter White like the win on this one. I got news for you. He and I have been having this conversation for a decade, by the way. When I used
Now,
to be
let's stay
I used
down
to
this rabbit hole. Let's talk about, okay, so if they're the puppets, who are the puppet masters?
it's clearly in my mind, it's clearly London. London is the one that has the most to lose here because they're the shadow empire, right? They're they're the empire that never ended. They just retreated into the shadows and control things through the financial markets and then the media and the intelligence services. They are the ones running most of the drugs and the guns. They are the ones that have been working with all the dispossessed aspect, ethnic uh, organized crime groups. Like, you'll note that there are no Russian mobsters in Moscow.
Right.
They're all in New York City. They're all in London. Why? Because if they went back to Moscow, Putin would have them killed. The Chinese triads are in Vancouver. Why? Because if they went back to Shanghai or Kunming, they'd get friggin' killed. Like, this is not hard, right? Matt Ehret's been doing this work for a long, long time. He knows he's got far more receipts about this than than I have. Just so you understand that is the mechanism. That's why this whole thing with Venezuela is so very telling, because
Hmm.
Venezuela is the Western Hemisphere capital of this whole network. And so you pressure Maduro and you pressure Venezuela, you're actually pressuring London and to a lesser extent the Chinese and everybody else about, you know, what is going to come into our country and what actually is we get to determine and the president gets to determine what is a hostile actor. See, my biggest problem, and this is a real big problem for me, and I don't care what anybody says. Most of the people who are now all of a sudden newly minted experts on UNCLOS, the Universal
Okay.
Law of the Sea, right, which has been put out there by the typical, helped along by Rand Paul and all these other people about what is and what the president can and cannot do in international waters. Pretty much anything he wants. Pretty much anything he
Yeah.
wants.
I mean,
And
these
Congress
boats
doesn't have.
weren't, they didn't have, they weren't bearing a flag of a foreign country. Uh,
Right.
they didn't yield, so
Right.
can assume they're
So
pirates.
when I look at a speedboat that's got six big freaking Yamaha outriggers on it, and I'm sorry, that's not a fishing boat. I don't care what you say. At the end of the day, men don't get periods, and those guys aren't fishermen. And that's that. And if they are fishermen, well, they may not want to make themselves look like cartel boats. You could, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. It's all just nonsense, and we all know it. So when you have a crisis in your home country where more people are dying from drug overdoses on a yearly basis than we lost in the American Civil War on a yearly basis, which was the bloodiest conflict we were ever involved in on an annualized per capita basis, we have a problem. And the president has every goddamn right to go out there and blow up people that are doing it. And I'm just not going to feel bad about that. Okay. Like, there comes a point when, I get to defend my home, right? Do we believe in Castle Doctrine or do we not believe in Castle Doctrine? When the libertarian in the Senate, Rand Paul, can't understand the basics of Castle Doctrine at a national level, he's not fit for the friggin' office that he holds. Period. It's not murder.
Do you think with
It's
Paul
war.
it's ideology or is it control? He's being controlled.
I don't know. It doesn't matter, Kevin. My point about Rand Paul, even Massie, I come down on MTG was always controlled opposition. She comes out of the friggin' Georgia GOP, for Christ's sake. I just think that thing is just a nightmare. Um,
You made me think of the song from Mount of La Mancha where he goes, one of the refrains is whether it's the pitcher hitting the cobblestones or the cobblestones hitting the pitcher, it's bad for the pitcher. So
yeah, that's right.
exactly
Really,
why
and-
may not matter, but this is how it's hurting us.
right, because look, you have to, I understand that most libertarians don't have any concept of strategy. They're all about tactics. They're all about immediate outcomes. They're not about process. They don't like process. Process is messy. Process makes their ideological little mind palaces like explode, right? Um, but it's the truth. And one of the things that had, even when I would identify myself as a hardcore libertarian, and I still do it in many ways, I just think that these people aren't libertarians because they don't know how to like actually properly apply the non-aggression principle. They don't know how to apply their own friggin' quote unquote ideologies. Most of these people don't believe in anything.
Right.
I wish they did because as far as I'm concerned, I've always been with Murray Rothbard. I'm not getting rid of the, I'm not getting rid of the. I'm not for open borders until I get rid of the welfare warfare state. But most of these people are just leftists that want to smoke pot, or they're Republicans that don't want to pay taxes, and they call themselves libertarians, and that's that. And it's not a universal morality, like it isn't, because if it was, then 100,000 people die in a year from fentanyl or the cocaine or anything else. Like, sorry, not buying it. And here's the other thing. I'm gonna make it abundantly clear. I'm gonna draw a parallel here
Hmm.
to get people to understand why I've made what I'm effectively would look like a radical shift. The current refrain is you can't stop the war on drugs. We've been trying for 50 years and it never worked, right? And I still adhere to the basic argument that governments are only good at two things: killing people and creating black markets. But that being said, it's not like we ever tried to actually fight the war on drugs. We never did. Okay, the government, the intelligence services, everything was built to encourage this because we had already been hollowed out from within by traitors within the organization, within the government. Because at the end of the day, McCarthy was right about everything.
Is a
Okay,
good example of
Buchanan
that
was
like
right about it.
the
So maybe
Sandinistas
we should.
in
What I'm getting at is maybe you should give Donald Trump a chance to actually fight the war on drugs for the first time in 50 years, and then we'll see where we are in 5. Maybe we should do that. In the same way that they argue about the Federal Reserve always being the big evil thing in the world. Again, same thing. I've made this point to Bitcoiners in the past, and I'm using the same basic, you know,
good
argumentative,
luck.
primitive logic here, which is the following, which is Bitcoin was birthed as a response to a Federal Reserve that was actively hostile to the future of the dollar, that was trying to destroy the dollar for transnational globalist purposes.
Hmm.
The people running the Federal Reserve were traitors.
Hmm.
What happens if you have a Federal Reserve that's not staffed by traders? That's not run by traders. It's run by sovereigntists. What is that going to look like? Maybe Bitcoin doesn't take over the world by 2025.
Maybe we have sound money by 2020.
Maybe we have a dollar that we have people defending the value of the dollar and the infrastructure of the dollar in a way that incorporates what Bitcoin represents, which is pristine collateral, in the same way that gold is pristine collateral for a new dollarization system. Oh, they hate that idea because they built their entire like personal identity around the idea that I'm in opposition to the Federal Reserve or this or whatever this thing is in their head, centralization. Like, got news for you. We don't live in a decentralized world, and we ain't going to go from where we are today, which is
Right.
at the bottom of a hyper centralized world run by a bunch of friggin' a, a bunch of friggin' HR nannies and ballless eunuchs LARPing as middle managers, because that's what runs the country, right? It's the
Right.
it's the It's the boss from it's Ed Norton's boss from Fight Club, and it's or the pointy-haired boss from Dilbert warring with the Karen from HR. That's the world we live in, folks. And you want to, like, I don't know, just get rid of everything? Well, the rest of the world has all of these weapons pointed at us. Their central banks, their financial markets, their derivative markets, all this. And you just want to like throw all that in the gutter. It's it was a bad idea. Let's just leave the country defenseless and let's just open the borders. Okay, that's a great idea. So are you gonna be standing on your principles while they're raping your daughter? Good. Like I'm good. I'm not. I'm gonna be shooting them, and that's gonna be that. And if that means having to, as you put it to start out the podcast, zigzag our way towards a better future, that's what we have to do. And sometimes you have to zig and zag in order
Right.
to get to a better future. And the best example of that is the guy they all lionize now, Vladimir Putin, who took over Russia, nationalized a whole bunch of industries, put a whole bunch of oligarchs in jail, did a whole bunch of crap that, by anybody's definition of, it was autocratic, and yet look at where Russia is today. As he now devolves power out of the hands of the presidency, gives that power back to gives some of that power back to the people, which he's done,
Hmm.
and stabilize their lives and improve their standard of living by orders of magnitude in a generation. Maybe we have to get back to that before we can start having all of these bourgeois ideals of, I don't know, natural rights. Because I'm at the point now where I just can't understand what these people are thinking. It's just dumb. Okay. And I thought, I mean, it's one thing when you're in the opposition, right? When you're losing and the globalists are winning and they're destroying your lives, sure, go out there, take a maximalist position in order to cut through the noise and gain some traction rhetorically and politically. Hey, man, I'm all over it. Why do you think I go out there screaming every day that it's City of London? Right? I do it as a maximalist position in order to shock people and get them thinking. It's not because I believe that. Okay, I only half believe that, or three-quarters believe it. Like, I do it on purpose in order, as a strategy, in order to move the conversation away from whatever it is that City of London doesn't want me to talk about. Okay, same thing when you're in the opposition, you're a libertarian, and you believe in you believe in all this stuff, and I do. I still do. But when you're in the opposition, take the maximalist approach. Be an asshole. Say things like, I don't vote. I don't like to encourage them. Whatever it is, taxation is theft. Blah, 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 blah. It's all good.
Hmm.
But when you get into power, you're supposed to put the oppositional defiance disorder away and then look at the real politics of the situation and go, what can we accomplish in the time frame that we have in front of us? That's why Thomas Massie is a traitor. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't MAGA. That's why Rand Paul is a beta cuck carrying water for the City of London. And that's why we have to stop this nonsense. That's why Robert Barnes needs to shut the fuck up. Like
Interesting.
all of them.
You,
They
you, make,
all need to stop.
yeah, you made
They
me
have
think
to get.
of
This is why I wanted to come on the show, because you're dealing with actual policy on a daily basis.
daily
You're like working.
basis, and we're winning. And where
Yes.
I get similarly frustrated is the people when, for instance, where we are this year as opposed to prior years. I would be fighting things like the Fairness for High Skilled Immigrants Act,
Mm-hmm.
or the Eagle Act, or some amendment that they're trying to stick into an end of year budget bill. This year, not only is there none of that, we have bills like what was introduced by Senator Jim Banks of Indiana last September or this September, uh, called the American Tech Force Act of 2025, where we're going to get rid of STEM OPT. We're going to reform H-1B, and I'm advising policy on several other bills to these ends. I mean, that's to me is real success. Am I frustrated that we haven't made progress? Am I frustrated that, the tech bros have taken up residence just down the street here and they're influencing policy and it's difficult? But, you know, we finally have someone in the White House who you could talk to. There's
I
not
know.
this these minions that control him. If you can get the president's attention, he will notice you. He'll talk to you. He posts on, not just posts on Truth Social, but I know they read our stuff on X. So we can have influence, and why people aren't happier about that. And yeah, I'm frustrated as anyone. Trust me. There's days
Right.
when I just rage, but at the same time kind of step back. And when you were talking earlier about these people that are just disruptive, I'm Harry Drinker Bowen. She wrote a book called The Miracle in Philadelphia about the Constitutional Convention, and she
Mm-hmm.
starts it off by saying, "Gone were the firebrands of '76. Adams was in London, Jefferson was in Paris." Uh, who was at the convention were the builders, the people that wanted to get the stuff done. Yeah, there were lots of compromises, things that, the two-thirds law, all that stuff. But
Like the three rule and everything.
yeah, yeah, right. Uh, but things could get done and we were better for it. Now it's like, at least let's like get things done because God help us. I can't help but think if they fail, um,
Yeah,
who
I mean,
would you?
what's your alternative? This is the thing that pisses me off. Like, what's your alternative? Trump should just walk away from Ukraine. Okay, he should just leave NATO. Well, you can't. It'll take at least a year to unwind all
Bases.
of our relationships and the right bases. You got to move all of this stuff. You got to get all these people out of there. You got a lot of work to do. You have to set the target and then try and achieve the target. Right? He's not going to get to his 2027 target if you don't actively like suppress your oppositional defiance disorder and stop bitching about what's happening in this one little sector of the electorate. The truth of the matter is that come November, he's got 11 months to
Hmm.
fix the messaging. And I do think Trump is making mistakes. Let's not like I'm not here to, you
Right.
know, again, I'm not saying the guy's perfect or anything. Should he be doing fireside chats and stop, you know, um, and stop just making fun of the media? No, he should. He needs to bypass the media. He needs to stop validating them in any way, manner, shape, or form by letting them get under his skin. Like if I have a criticism of Donald Trump, that's it. I know what he wants to accomplish. I know exactly what he wants to accomplish. I know that he wants to, fix the housing market, fix the banking industry, he and the Senate want to fix the Federal Reserve and take back sovereignty over money and a variety of things. I know he wants to do all that and bring the jobs back to the United States and shake our and literally go and get reparations from all of these freaking countries that stole trillions of dollars of middle class wealth over the last 50 years and put it in the hands of every swinging dick around the world. I get it, and I'm happy as a clam to watch him do it and and keep going. But he does have to make the case to the younger generation that what he's trying to fix is for them, and he hasn't quite sealed that deal yet. And they voted for him in the fall because they didn't have any other option. Now they got to vote. They don't have to vote against Kamala Harris. They have to vote against the crazy Democrats. They got to vote for him in a real sense of what he is getting done and say and literally level with them. Like, look, I am doing everything I can. We're doing these things. We've brought the price of gasoline down. We've done this. Okay, fine. I need to bring Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship in order to unlock the mortgage market so I can get to housing affordability. I need you to help me kick 5 million people out of this country because they're the ones that have made your home your starter home unaffordable because Biden not only gave them the tax money for the down payment and the job to pay for it, but then gave them the subsidized mortgage on top of it. Okay? They did all of that. And they did that with your parents' money. And your parents are pissed off. And why you can't talk to your parents, why you think they're like lunatics, is because they don't know any better. Because they're not following, because the average parent isn't like me who can speak to my daughter and explain all this stuff to her, and she's still skeptical. You know why? Because because she's smart and she's got an independent mind. And because the world around her is saying certain things that are different. And they all know that everybody's a fucking liar and a grifter. You want to talk about? You think Gen Xers can smell a grifter from a mile away? You ain't met Gen Z yet.
Gen Z
Like
is
you
great.
ain't met, you ain't
And
met these kids. These kids know they're like everybody's a grifter. Like every And it's a defense mechanism, and we have to get through that. And Trump has to get through that, and he hasn't figured out that that's the key.
hmm,
And the Republicans are not going to help him here. So you want to win the midterms? I can tell you how to win the midterms. Get rid of fucking Grassley right now.
interesting.
Neuter
Okay.
that old fart right now. And you know how you and I talked about it before we hit record. You know how you stop, you know how you get rid of the blue slips, which are keeping Pam Bondi from being able to give cases with all this overwhelming evidence against all these people and put them in freaking courts and get the shit started? Well, you got to get rid of the blue slip stuff because because these cases are going to be tried in jurisdictions where there's one Democratic senator. You're screwed, right? Now, so how do you? So who's the guy holding that up? Well, that's Grassley. Why? No, because he's clearly a uniparty. But where does Grassley live and die? Trump's all about leverage. You want leverage, Donald Trump? You listen to this freaking podcast. Go after the corn subsidies. Go after RINs. Go after the
Ethanol.
renewable identification numbers and the ethanol blending credits. You want to fix we're producing so much freaking oil right now. Like WTI is in the mid 50s and falling. I just read a thing the other day that traditional frac sand is going away, and and now the industry is moving to refinery waste, basically of what that amounts to
That.
freaking to that stuff. That dust is a
Hmm.
better frac sand than frac sand is. It's cheaper and it blasts the rock open, and it's better, and it's going to improve fracking efficiency by anywhere from 15 to 25%. We're gonna. I watched a video on the other day, and the guy's like, "That's like putting a medium OPEC producer on the market tomorrow." And it also means that fracking costs are going to go down on a per barrel basis, meaning the break-even price for American producers is going to drop from the high
As I.
40s into the high 30s
Mhm.
per barrel. Oil can drop into the Brent crude can drop into the mid 50s, and Shell will still be making money hand over fist at 90, at $100 a share. Okay, understand that scenario. We don't need corn-based ethanol. Why is the corn-based ethanol thing even a thing after the EPA has rescinded the rule that CO2 is a poison? Get rid of it. You got rid of CAFE. Now get rid of RINs. You do that, and you start threatening the corn subsidies, and Grassley will fall over himself with his walker to get into the freaking Oval Office to go, what do I have to do to stop that? Like, he won't, they won't have to throw him down the stairs to get the black eye. He'll trip over himself trying to get to the fucking Oval Office to try and stop that from happening
Oh yeah,
and still wind up with a black eye.
yeah, he was wagging his finger at Kennedy for talking about high fructose
High
corn syrup.
fructose corn syrup. Like, he's right there. Boom, done. Get rid of that old bastard. And then tell him flat out, you're not running for re-election. I don't care.
And Trump
And
just came
then
out
take
today
it back
that
as a mob boss. And I'm dead serious. And he goes, and if you think you are going to run for re-election, we are going to throw you down the stairs. That's where we are, folks.
that's mob
That's
rule.
what. Well, you have to understand. When I say it like that, I don't actually mean it like
You don't
that. But
mean
what I'm
it that
telling
way.
you is,
You mean
what I mean is that what I'm saying to you is I'm not saying this, but Gen Z's saying it. Gen Z is literally saying we don't care. Fix it and fix it now.
because
Give us a reason to
what
believe
I'm
in you.
being told
Give us a
by
reason to believe that this system shouldn't just be torn down while we check out and play video games
what I'm being
and wait
told
for.
by my Gen Z activists is the younger Gen Z are more conservative than the older Gen Z.
Mhm.
So this
Yeah.
dynamic, the people are getting more conservative. I think, as you said, Tom, they realize better than anyone how screwed they are. I'm in my 60s, and when I graduated from high school in 1980, I didn't have to go in the army 2 days later. Uh, there were
Mhm.
plenty of manufacturing jobs where I grew up. I mean, there were several textile manufacturers, and then you work with them a few years, and then you get on with Bethlehem Steel, and you retire after 30 there. There was so much. I mean, there was always, and the way you found jobs was, someone would tell a friend, "Hey, look, they need some more people on the second swing shift. You can breathe, right? Come on, get down there and get a good paying job." And now there is nothing for them. I gave a
I know.
lecture at Penn State and another one at University of Pitt, and these kids, what are they going to do? They're up to their eyeballs in student debt, and
Hmm.
like computer science grads, where if you probably have more than a 1% unemployment rate, the red light should be flashing on the panel. They're a 6% unemployment rate right
I know. But again, Kevin, some of this ties right into the immigration thing.
now.
It ties right
Absolutely.
into it ties right into all of that. So we have to get rid. So again, you want to de-radicalize these kids? Like I'll be honest. Here's one for you. Saw it this morning. The Trump administration or transportation or ICE, they just put in a big order to Boeing to buy 737s so they have their own planes to deport people. They don't have to worry. They don't have to um, rely on charter flights. Like they bought a whole bunch of 737s from Boeing. Like
And that
fuck it.
shows
You know
commitment.
what I mean? Yeah,
I
that
love it.
shows you commitment. How about this? And if these kids are that serious about wanting to fix things, hey, do some pull-ups, do some push-ups, go to the gym,
Yeah,
and
join
join ICE,
ICE, do
and
interior
they'll give you seventy,
enforcement.
you'll get you a $70,000 signing bonus, and we'll move on.
Yeah,
You know, like, and it's that serious. I have a friend of mine who's absolutely going to join ICE in order to help
right on.
and do his part to save civilization as he knows it. And that guy is, yeah, he's more radical than I am. So, and I respect it. I respect the sentiment, and he's in his 40s. He's going to do this shit.
Wow.
Um, yeah, he's not screwing around. Like the hell with it. It's not like he's not like he's 20. No, like we have work to do. If we want to save the society, we have to put skin on the table. This is my problem with. Like, at the end of the day, Kevin, I've just come to the realization that all all hard radicals like this, be they libertarians or communists, they're just Trotskyites. And what I mean by that, and I accused the guy of this morning, and he got pissy with me. I don't give a shit. Like what I mean by this is, what was Trotsky's thing? Permanent revolution. And it's never good enough. Okay, it's not a political um, position. It's a fundamental flaw in your like personality makeup.
Yeah.
You've got abandonment issues and daddy issues or mommy issues if you're a guy, and daddy issues if you're a girl. That this is why you push into these ideas. I know people hate it when I
No,
say
no,
shit.
I think you're
Hey,
spot
no,
on.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the
No,
audience.
no, no,
The
no.
audience.
I mean you're spot on because when I look at people who have what I call TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, you trace it back, they have daddy issues. I'm like, wait a
I know
minute.
it's really funny. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I'm watching the other day, like I used to give money to antiwar.com, right? for example. I stopped after Justin Raimondo died. And I've noticed like the route they've all gone, they've all just like lost their minds. Like Scott Horton and the whole crew, like I just lost their minds. And so something today is like it's the 25th anniversary of antiwar.com, blah blah blah. And I'm like, and we should all get together and celebrate the thing that Justin Raimondo, the great Justin Raimondo helped create. And I'm like, yeah, but Raimondo's rolling over in his grave of what you guys have become because Raimondo was the ultimate realpolitik
Right.
um, geopolitical analyst. He always understood that geopolitics was about what you could get. He taught me so much about how to analyze geopolitics, and the people that are adjacent to that now are not. They're just a bunch of fucking Trotskyites acting out their you know, acting out the hole in their heart that mommy couldn't fill for them. Like, fuck off. Like, you guys are not, you're not, you don't get to even stand in the shadow of a guy like Raimondo, who understood that you, that there are, that geopolitics is complex and things are nuanced and hard. And they're not in that mode anymore.
No.
You know, it's funny. I used to give money to antiwar.com. I wrote a eulogy for Raimondo when he died, and he was the only thing I read at antiwar.com. The rest of the site was completely worthless to me after about
It's
6 months.
interesting you say this because I was really involved during the George W. administration in getting us out of Iraq and Afghanistan. There would be big rallies in Los Angeles. But as
Right.
soon as Obama was elected president, no one was in the streets anymore. Isn't that peculiar? We're still in Afghanistan, we were still in Iraq, and yeah, there
Mm-hmm.
would be an occasional, you know, person out there, but gone was the impetus. So it tells me it's very tribal. There has to be, again, puppeteers back there saying, all right, guys, dive in, don't dive in. No, no, our team's in charge now. And that's kind of way, I mean, the Democrats are actually very good at that team
They're very, very
politics.
good at it. Well, yeah, but they're very good at it because they keep their people in line,
They do.
and they're Marxists. They're dyed-in-the-wool Marxists. They believe in this stuff. They've been inculcated in it. They really do believe it. I don't know. The libertarians don't have any. They don't have any sense of winning. They understand. The Marxists have always understood. Start small, and then take every win and celebrate every win. Libertarians cannot celebrate a win. All they can do is go, "That's not good enough.
Oh, it's
That's
Tom,
not."
that's absolutely right on. I was reading a book called Always with Honor by Petro Rongel. He was the last white
Good.
Russian commander to get on the boat in Sebastopol and leave. And you look at, he describes how the Bolsheviks were taking over. And during the provisional, during was it Krinsky, the
Yeah, correct.
provisional leader, and yet, because the Bolsheviks, they were always in sync. Everyone else was like, well, should we do this or shouldn't we do that? But
No.
they just kept, perpetual revolution, perpetual victimhood. And it's hard to defend against that. I mean, they were able to field huge armies. Uh,
Well, that's a more complicated story, but yes, they also had a lot of help by having the British constantly betray all the other oppositional forces, and Churchill was coordinating the mess, but they didn't have nearly the power that they actually had. What they had was a disorganized opposition that was being so that they could win. The British were stage managing all of that. But in today's, and the same thing is happening today. Like it's the same type of people running the same playbook, and then fronting um, solidarity. And they're very good at this. They're very good at psychological operations. They know how to take conservatives and turn them and dispirit them. They know exactly how to take leftists, liberals, and 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 outrage them. Like, it's not hard. Human psychology is not is at this level not that difficult. And I'm at the point now where like modern libertarians are they're just people with oppositional defiance disorder. They don't want to win. They want to critique. They are critics. They're not builders. To your point about the Continental Congress, they're not builders. They don't want to build anything. They just want to sit and critique. They don't make movies. They review them.
Hmm.
They don't make policy because that's hard. These people can't construct a policy sentence, no less write a bill. Have you ever been in a Libertarian Party meeting?
Oh, I went. Well, I went to their in the last election. I went to
Dude,
their big annual thing. It was a mess, absolute mess.
I still have PTSD from sitting in state um state conferences and arguing about a comma over a semicolon in a freaking sentence. These people argued comma versus semicolon for 2 hours.
I would
And I
rather go to a neighborhood, one of the they were they Los Angeles. It's broken into these neighborhood organizations, and they're actually get a little bit of funding and everything. I'd rather go to one of those than a libertarian statewide meeting.
dude, I'd rather go and get root canal like at this point on healthy teeth. Like and
Crazy.
seriously, it's insane. And God's bless them. Like as critics of the policy, they're not bad. But when it comes down to it, when you're winning, you win. You take your wins, you take your incremental movement, and you move forward. You're not. We're not debating and how many Rothbards can dance on the head of a fucking pin. We're trying to craft public policy that works for people that don't agree with us.
Absolutely.
The possible.
Well, Tom, we've gone over an hour already. This is it's amazing. I just looked at the time. Uh, wow. I'm thinking in the next maybe 5 minutes, just kind of winding it down into uh, where you feel the administration has to go in 2026. Because I
Yeah,
just today, what came out from President Trump was he is going to campaign this year like it's 2024. Well,
that's
in
what Susie
2026.
Wiles was saying, and I think he should do that. I also think he should take to the real bully pulpit, and that is speak to the people directly. And he just needs to sit down and like calmly stop. I know Trump doesn't really work well as a speech guy. He works better in a Q&A. You might as well like pick a guy to like sit and chat, have a freaking chat with, but have it be somebody who likes you and do this on a regular basis. Do it with a member of your administration. Sit down with one of your cabinet members and discuss, what's happening at DNI or Sec War, with Department of War, whatever. Sit down and talk about, oh, FYI, we only have the one big beautiful bill is only reformed certain aspects of our government. We still have all these departments that are still operating under Biden rules. And no one knows this. It's
Maybe
not
he
been
should go
communicated.
Ross Perot, do an infomercial, a weekly infomercial where he's like,
I
"Hey,
guess, like, there's this thing called fucking YouTube, the last I checked, and you can use it. And you should use it. Sit down, put somebody on staff who said, these are the things that we need to talk about this week, Mr. President. These are the things that the American people don't know about.
right."
And they need you to take an hour and focus and do that. Here's a Diet Coke.
And if they
Here's
knew,
a
for
comma. Do
instance,
your thing.
if they knew that every illegal alien who came over and was processed through some NGO, we probably expended $50,000 between them and the NGO.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? What could be trillion and a half dollars of our taxpayer money. If people knew that, they'd be like, "Boy, I really like what you're doing with the deportations."
Yeah, I don't think anybody has a problem with deportation. But I think Trump has the same problem Putin has, which is that he's too moderate. That he's trying to go he's not going fast enough. I'm telling you, he has with the younger Gen X the younger Gen Zs, he's got the opportunity to go harder, and he's doing it in Venezuela, and it's gonna, and that's good. Now, now step everything else up, and you have to explain to everybody complex issues, and you've got complex things that you're trying to accomplish. These are multi-year targets that you're trying to hit, and you throw yourself on the mercy of the people and stop selling us that everything is rosy. Yeah, things are improving, but things still suck for a lot of people because you look a little out of touch. So it's not hard. You just do the very un-Donald Trump thing. And this is what I said last month in our newsletter, and I'll continue to say it again. Because I know the administration listens. Like, you have an ear in the administration. I know the administration listens to us. At least parts of it do. Like, you've got to do the very un-Donald Trump thing and stop selling us on the good parts version. You've got to accept the fact that you have a mess that you are trying to fix, and that this fix is going to take a while.
And this is a decades
What
long mess.
what I said in the newsletter last month was I talked about my dad who retired from the NYPD in 1982, right in the middle of the Reagan recession, right? My dad did not have any doubt about Reagan, not one doubt, because Reagan clearly communicated to the people, we're in a mess, it's going to suck, it's going to suck for this long, and then it's going to start to get better. Hang in there, hang with me, we can get this done, but I need your help. Trump wants to be better than Reagan. Trump wants to be up on Mount fucking Rushmore. Trump wants to save the world. He's got to do that, and he hasn't quite done it yet. He's done it with the people like myself and you and the others who get it, because they can see the big picture. You've got to drill that in to the kids who don't get it, and you've got to sell it to them. I can tell you what he's doing. I can tell you that he's on the right path on all of these issues, but it has to come from him, because he's the guy. He's the guy.
Absolutely.
And if he does that, he'll have no problem putting his people in Congress, his people in the Senate, neutering shitheads like Chuck Grassley and Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, and the rest of them. And he'll walk into the midterms with redistricting and
actual voter ID. I mean,
voter
Remy
ID,
Dillon is
electoral
doing
reform, all
great
of that
work.
stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll walk in with a 40-seat majority and 50-seat majority in the House and plus 6 in the Senate, and it'll all end. And the whole thing will collapse, and the whole extend and pretend oppositional defiance bullshit that the British and the French and everybody are running against us will end. And that'll be that. And we're not going to get an end to the war in Ukraine because Zelensky won't go away. Okay, but Trump is going to walk away from it, and he's not going to put our boys in there.
No.
And I don't, and that's fine. And Putin's going to just keep rotating troops through and getting more of the men harder and ready for when the French decide to, pull up their pantyhose and, show up for war and then run home.
Yeah, we
can
predict how that's going to go.
We know
Tom,
exactly how that.
yeah, Tom, you had mentioned your newsletter, and usually I say, hey, how can people find out more about you? But I got to say, if there's one newsletter you need to be, if you want to stay abreast of geopolitics, of finance, of commodities, uh, Gold, Goats, and Guns is the news. Did I get that in the right order? Gold, Goats, and Guns?
Yes, you did.
Yes, Gold, Goats, and Guns is the newsletter subscribed to. I've subscribed for what, I think 7 years now.
Wow, is it
And
that been that long ago? Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
it's a
Thank you.
great newsletter. And, everyone, the audience, you really need to subscribe to that. And I also love it when you get together and do podcasts with people like Dave Cullum. I saw you did one with Jim Kunstler, all those guys I know. Wonderful people, great perspectives. And Tom, always great having you here on the show. I know my audience always looks forward to it. And 2026, 2027, I think they're going to be really bumpy years. But if
Yes,
we
they are.
hang together, we'll get through this. And
Yeah, that's it. It's not hard. Just hang together. Just stop. Play this. Stop with the. Well, I don't want to sound like a cocknobber. Just shut up and just go out there and get some work done. And and if you're anxious about this stuff, like we're happy to tell like some people in our private chat circles, like what, you need a timeout. You need to like walk away for 5 days.
yeah,
Just just walk away. But no, just walk away. Rich Barris isn't a god. Robert Barnes isn't a god. They don't know anything, any more than anybody else does, any more than we do. But I can tell you that this administration is different. I've heard this
it is
from
different. It's very different.
multiple people who are closer to policy than they're like, oh, it's a sea change, and it's all Congress is the problem. So
Yeah, and then the
let's get it.
agencies, like I'll say, there are great people now in these agencies that I know,
Yeah,
but these are 50,000, 80,000 personnel that you're not going to change overnight. They've grown up in the civil service system. They know they like the way that they've been doing things, and that's
right.
going to take a long time to reform. But
It's
it's
just going to
we're
take.
moving it.
It
We're
took
moving the
multiple
dial.
generations. It took multiple generations to build this. It's going to take at least a generation to pull it apart. What Trump can do is start the process, and we have to say continue to say this is who we want to be, and if we do that, all the backbiting doesn't matter. And so anybody who's out there constantly trying to backbite, you got to question their motives, man. You do. And you have to hold their feet to the fire and say, why are you trying to sabotage this? Oh, I'm not doing it. Yeah, you are. And it's not hard at this point. You're carrying water for the enemy if you're playing that game, period. So think very carefully about how you criticize. Criticism is not wrong. How you criticize and the degree to which you criticize and over what you criticize, that's the key. Because criticism without like I said, I can sit here and criticize Trump all day long. We'll just get rid of Grassley or just put some pressure on him. How? I gave you a couple of ways, and it would be good for everybody.
How?
Like,
And at the same time, if they do something good, let them know that. Like I did a
yes,
big shout out, thank you to the Democrat senator from Arizona, Ruben Gallego, on Friday because he did the right thing. He sent a
hey, they threw John Fetterman down the stairs for voting to open the government back up. Like the guy's plus 31 with Republicans. All he has to do is switch sides and run in the primary as a Republican, and he'll get reelected.
yeah, he's popular in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he is. So the Democrats are going to try and primary him, and if they can still control the ballot box the way they normally do, they'll get rid of it because these people don't care. Like anybody who says that we can't lose our soul and fight and no, this is politics. These people are not going to go. They're not going to fight fair.
Mm,
That's the nature of the beast. And if you're not prepared for that fight, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to lose your soul. Fine. Then go rebuild your community and get out of politics.
I got to share something with you. We'll probably go an hour and 30 minutes here as opposed to an hour because we're at an hour
I know.
20. I saw this quote the other day, and it's from Monty Melkonian, Armenian
Okay.
American. He was killed in 1993. The Russians got him. He was fighting. He was fighting the Azerbaijanis, and
Uh,
he went over to Armenia, and he said this. It is about time that we loudly repudiate the romantic conceit that my pen is my gun. Pens are pens and guns are guns. There are more than enough intellectuals in the diaspora. What we need are fighters, soldiers, Fedians. That's enough.
he's
I
not
face this
he's
online
not
every
he's not the Secretary of Defense anymore. He's the Secretary of War.
war, war.
And he Announce that in front of a big old patent American flag. Oh, by the way, that's where we're going. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. You do things in war that you would not do during peacetime. The libertarianism is a peacetime.
Yeah. And the old hypocrisies are going away. They're not serving us anymore. The
Right.
institutions aren't serving us anymore. They're going to go away, and it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
painful, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, I
Uh,
know, and I'm okay with that because we all have children that we have to like. And I bring my daughter up all the time. I do this for her. This
right
isn't
on.
about me. This
It
isn't about
really
me.
is.
It's about our kids, and we have to keep speaking to the kids and tell them, no, no, we're doing this, and we're willing to sacrifice what's left of our lives to do this. And in my case, I made very big decisions to prove that to my daughter,
Mm,
and I was thankfully in a position to allow me to do that. And I thank my patrons for it, and I thank people like you who have me on these shows to like breathe fire into the ether. In order to get past her distrust and her, not of me, but of the thing
okay.
that she's having to walk into the world with. She
Hmm.
still had to have someone go, I am going to fight for you. I believe in you. As of course my job as a dad. I was never not going to do that. But there's a certain level of of trust that had to be bridged, right? And we are all
Hmm.
going to feel that at a certain level because no matter how great we are as, no matter how great our intentions are as parents, as commentators, as professionals, as anything else, there's always a gulf between our intentions and our outcomes,
Absolutely. Hmm.
right? And so you have to keep that in mind all the time. And sometimes you wake up and you realize, like, holy shit, I've missed something. And then you have to go back and go, okay, yeah, we're doing this. And I'm doing this for you. And I'm going to make this grand fucking gesture because this grand gesture is a down payment on how hard I and all the people that I'm associated with are going to fight for you, whether you want us to or not. And if you do, and doing that changed everything.
Wow.
Changed everything. It changed the entire family dynamic.
Hmm.
So, but I was thankfully in a position that I could actually do that. Not
Wow.
everybody is, but you
Fantastic.
can.
And there's a lot of programming to get over with,
Yeah, there really is.
uh,
And it's a huge level of distrust that they have of the existing systems, and of course the younger generations blame the older generations for leaving them this horrible situation.
and we did.
I mean, and we did, and I apologize. And for years I was just like, I'm really sorry. You're growing up into this mess. I'm doing my best to get us through it. And I'm making mistakes along the way, and yada yada yada. But I'm doing everything I can here, and bear with. But yeah, you just apologize. As parents, you're not perfect. And you're doing damage to your kid every day. It's just that one day you have to like turn to them and go, yeah, I kind of fucked up there. I'm really sorry. And yeah,
Wow.
you have every right to be angry with me. Let it out. I'm not going to get angry with you. I'm just going to say I'm sorry. Now let's move on. And
Get
yeah,
to work.
and that's and then we get together and then let's go do a thing. Let's go get pizza. And then we do. And you live life. So, but it's important. This is we have to. We're all deracinated and we're all overstressed. And we're all overscheduled and we're all this. We're all of these things. Don't forget to reconnect with the very people that matter the most to
Mm.
you and why it is you're doing what you're doing.
And this
And
is the perfect time of the year to do it, Tom. We got the
and of
holidays.
course,
Um,
but it's deeper than that. What I'm getting at here is that, and if the politics is driving you nuts, listening to people like me and Kevin talk, it's driving you nuts. Fine, walk away from it and go find something you can go fix that's local to you. because we're not going to fix the big things until we're willing to actually fix the little things that are right in front of us. Because the little things that are in front of us that allow the big things to happen. That is what the libertarians have forgotten.
Mm.
That's what they should be focused on.
And that's how you learn politics too, at the local level, like fixing something.
Yeah.
I actually
Okay.
I hold an elected office right now. I
Do
am
you?
on my county board of elections.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's a good place to be. That's
it
a
is a
very good place to
it's a great place to be, and I'm excited to be. I just filled out the affidavit the other day and mailed it in, so it's official.
be. Good for you. Excellent. That's about the best Christmas present I can ask for. Someone have someone who's not a shit lib on a goddamn election board. Thank gods. All
Yeah.
right. With all that said, everybody,
Tom,
Merry Christmas.
always great. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thanks so much.
All of it.
Always a pleasure.
Take care.